if you're just popping in, this is Sarah and I's 25th wedding anniversary, and we're just kind of doing a look back of kind of where we came from, kind of our struggle in marriage, and what we've learned. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about how we met and the early years where we developed some bad habits and the kind of the pain that brought. We've talked about having kids, and now we're up to, and then kind of the point where we came to a kind of a crossroads of saying we're not comfortable with the way the marriage is right now, even though it's acceptable. It probably could last. It's not what we want
legally.
Yeah,
it could have lasted.
Yeah. So that's where we're at, and we got news that they were divorced, and it was a past tense. They had separated already, and were in the process of divorce. And they'd been friends to us for a long time.
They kind of set themselves up as mentors.
Yeah, they're kind of mentors, and so it was a shock. It was a shock to us. Like, how could that happen? Like, and then it was like, if it could happen to them, then it could happen to us. We didn't get help before, because I want to explain that a little bit, because we've had experiences of friends going into counseling and it not working, or it being a bad experience, and so I primarily use those stories and those experiences of my friends to justify not going to counseling earlier. And it was something I didn't want to go to somebody and spill all my trouble out. I didn't want them to say, hey, this is your fault, because that's hard. We had some friends, and they did something called MarriageTeam, and we'd heard a little bit about it, and we didn't know very much about it, but we thought, hey, let's ask them about this thing called MarriageTeam. And what'd they say?
Yeah, so it was different. It's a little different in that you're focusing on learning skills, and that is something that we knew as ours was a communication issue. So learning skills is a little different than going and focusing on what is wrong. Let's go focus on what's wrong with you. Let's go focus on what's wrong with you. And that was something that I already was introspective and struggling too much, and so we just really felt like that isn't what we wanted for us right then at that time. So we went ahead and talked to her. She said, well, we can't coach you because we know you. You have to go with someone who doesn't know you. They do intake testing, and then they start meeting with you once a week.
Yeah.
Twice a month for us, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And start doing, it's basically communication strategy, but it's from a Christian worldview. And my insecurity came up again and again when we would go in. And I would say it would take 4 or 5 sessions before I was feeling like, I kept thinking, I'm going to go here and I'm going to realize that the problem is me, that I am a very evil, bad person, and there is nothing I can do about it, and we're just screwed.
And that's kind of what I thought too, going in. And just kind of, a lot of the husbands I've talked to think that the wife is the better of the two. I think we just tend to think that, hey, I just look at you and like, you're good, and I'm not good, And so that was brought into and that's kind of what kept me from going to counseling as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This MarriageTeam thing was cool because what it did is, instead of a person sitting on the couch pointing at you and saying, you must do this, which I'm not saying that's counseling, but that's what I thought it was.
Have you been to counseling?
Not really.
It's not like that.
What we found was this older couple who they've blown it in life, and then they've done things right too, but they're in a marriage and they're struggling just like we are. But they're just sitting across the table, and they just started like asking us questions and letting us talk. And it was such a freeing experience. And basically, what we found was just a safe place to start working through some of the stuff we've talked about, all these little hurts. And then also, what they did is they started giving us tools, or what we call plays, to work through them. And so the idea is that we're on a team. So Sarah and I are on a team, and that's something that we had forgotten. We had started to act like we were competitors, and so whenever we would talk or have discussion or a debate, there was always going to be a winner and a loser. But the problem with that is that the winner is kind of a loser too, because you've just damaged the relationship by winning. And so we've learned through this how to be teammates again. That's really what it's all about. And we have developed what's called plays. or habits that we are triggered by certain things. Just like when you're on a team and a ball is thrown and you try to hit the ball with a bat, you have a play. We have developed plays for ourselves to kind of go against these bad habits that we have developed. So we just kind of want to share a couple of those things, a couple of the principles we've learned, and then a couple of the plays that we've learned. And then that'll be it. So principles we've learned that have kind of helped.
And I just want to say, like, Marriage Team, we like because we did it and we found success there. Why it works is it was based on biblical principles, and they're teaching you communication strategies and teaching you what you're going to touch on one of them. There's just like a few key things in order that when you do them that way, it can work. Yeah, let me get back to what I mean by the principle. So, like when I was saying, like I had a playbook, and if you do this, you get the success. And if you do this, you get the success. What was missing for me was realizing that I'm accepted 100% in Christ, and that is the gospel. That's what was missing, and that's what I think Marriage Team helped me see, like God accepts me. And then moving from that to I can listen to you without threat because I know God accepts me no matter what. I want to hear what you have to say instead of being defensive and afraid of, he's going to say something that's going to point out this terrible truth about me, and everything's just going to go to hell in a handbasket. So that's what I want to say. Okay.
So the principle I want to talk about that we learned is forgiveness. And there's 10 of them, but this is the skill, I guess. And this was important because, as I've said before, I got a bee flying around my head here. As I said before, whenever we would come together and have a disagreement, we weren't just interacting with the current disagreement. We were acting with 23 years of disagreements that we had never dealt with.
I can see you're going to fail me again.
Yeah, so
in the same way.
So, and that, can you imagine that? Like, we're talking to each other, and she's looking at me with that filter of 23 years of hurt, just little hurts that add up. That nothing has ever really been dealt with. Just it got so bad that it was insurmountable, and so we did a lot of work on communication. We did a lot of work on understanding one another, and then we came to a point of deciding, are we going to forgive one another? Because that's where we're at. And so it was really a decision of, hey, this, even though I know that you're not perfect, I'm going to decide to forgive you. I'm not forgetting all this stuff, because that doesn't happen, but I'm making a decision to forgive you. And when that happened, at first I was like a little afraid, like she couldn't really forgive me because, I've caused a lot of hurt. Not purposely, but just through ignorance. Sometimes it's been purposely, but that happens in a relationship. Hurt happens as part of a relationship. But it did work. I mean, we made the decision together, and it really was kind of like a night and day decision of, hey, okay, let's kind of start fresh.
So that was.
So which one do you want to share?
I think that listening was a big deal for me. So we weren't listening very well, and this listening play was really helpful because it goes back and forth many times. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the thing, you're supposed to listen to what someone's saying and not think about what you're going to say. Yeah. And then you're also supposed to repeat back to people. When someone says something, then you're supposed to say, what I hear you say is, and then you say it back. And then you're supposed to say, did I get it right? And then the other person can correct you and say, no, I actually meant this, or I actually meant that, and in this spot I meant it this way.
We've learned that if you paraphrase a conversation, like if you're going to bring up something that you want to talk about, you kind of lay the foundation, reminding them, hey, I still love you. Everything's still good between us. I'm not upset with you. Just that phrase has brought so much peace, and it kind of just like, you're like, okay, it's all right. Everything's cool. He still loves me, or she still loves me. Yeah. That one thing has made a huge difference in our marriage. Yeah, and we forget to do it a lot. Yeah. But when we do it, when we remember to do it, it's like, yeah, okay, that is great. And it's so simple. It's like, yeah, you don't think it would make that big a difference, but it really does.
So acceptance was a big deal. And then I felt like one of the things I'm supposed to do is not give advice immediately, because he likes to vent.
So what would happen is I would just come and want to vent, like, work just really was horrible today, or I have a horrible captain today. And she would immediately go into problem-solving mode, which is just what she's good at. But it would come across as, I would take it like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough to handle my own problems, which I wasn't looking for that. I was looking for just, hey, would you just listen to me? The play that we developed for that was, I would just say something to the effect of, you're giving advice.
Yeah.
And then she would be like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just listen to you.
Yeah, because we had predetermined. So in this particular program, the way it works is you work together. And that was another huge thing about the conversations, was we had already pre-decided that when we have a conversation, how it will go. So that means that if I need to be confronted with something that I've done that I've agreed that I'm not going to do, so we would have already planned this out. Sarah is bad at giving unwanted advice. So that's true. So
she gives good advice.
And then he would say, these are the 2 things that I would like you to stop doing, and I had 2 things. So it was always reciprocal. And then when I do these things, I get to tell him how I want him to remind me. So, and if that doesn't work out and I get mad, we can retool it, which was really helpful because it was always with the other person's, always thinking of the other person's feelings and honor and respect, not like I had been doing in the playbooks before.
We did that, and now we're here today at year 25, and I'd have to say that this year, even though we are in, we're in COVID seclusion, and we've faced a lot of stresses, and I'm looking at possible job loss, which would cause a lot of stress, that we are probably stronger today than we've ever been.
I think that, we said that when we went into lockdown at first, because we had just finished the marriage team. It was 6 months long. And we started in September, and we weren't in such a great place in September.
Yeah.
And we finished December or January?
January, I think.
And we had just decided, and we're going to meet up with our coaches and keep doing kind of like refreshers, because obviously, like I'm telling you now, I don't always remember my plays.
We're not perfect at this at all.
No.
Yeah.
No, and we're not saying we're the end all be all, or that it's going to be great or anything. We could still be in a bad place.
Hey, Troy, thanks, man.
But so if we'd have gone into lockdown where we were at before, it would have been a bad time.
Yeah. So so that's kind of where we are now, and we've talked a lot about Marriage Team, but I just would encourage you to just not settle for second best. Don't settle for it. Don't let that go. Seek help for that thing, because we are evidence that it can get better.